Hello, everyone. My name is Ben Osborne. I'm the editor-in-chief of Slam Magazine, which has an increasing presence online. And I was lucky enough to meet Ali Abdullah to my far left, the co-founder and CEO of Claim It app, which appeals to young people, much like our magazine. And then best of all, one of his main early investors is Thaddeus Young, to my immediate left, an NBA player from the Brooklyn Nets who actually wrote for Slam back when he was in high school. So there's a lot of synergy between the three of us. They're the stars. I'm the moderator. They have a great and inspirational story, and I hope you guys enjoy it. Ali, without further ado, I mean, why don't you tell the people what Claim It app is, tell them about the pink truck out there, and give a little context.
Absolutely. Thanks for the invite. It's an honor to be here. My name is Ali Abdullah. I'm the founder and CEO of Claim It. Essentially what Claim It is, it's a mobile app that's available on the iPhone and Android platform. And our users can discover where to get free stuff every day. And when in proximity of these locations, you can win its free prizes just by watching a 15-second ad. And so today, Propelify invited us here, as well as our pink truck. And we have a pretty long line by the truck. And today we're giving out Starbucks gift cards. So following this, we can chat and take a walk on over to get some free swag.
Cool. Ali, can you talk about, the process of finding investors in general? I'm sure there's a lot of people here who aspire to start something from scratch, and then maybe lead that into how you got a quote-unquote celebrity investor and the man sitting between us.
Absolutely, yeah. It's a brutal process raising money. Prior to launching Claim It, I worked at Google for about 3 years as a senior engineer there, and I met Thad in 2013. I can probably remember the day. It was in November. And so my friend Royal Ivy, who played for the 76ers at the time, introduced me to Thad. Him and I just started talking about technology. The first thing he mentioned was Uber. On how he spends so much money on Uber from commuting from, Philadelphia to New York City. And I said, you take Uber? He said, I also take the train sometimes. I said, dude, you make like $10 million a year. And so he's a very humble guy. He was very forward-thinking. And I told him, I said, hey, I work at Google, but I'm working on a pretty interesting idea that I think might appeal to you. And so we stayed in touch over the years, met a few times, just talked about different ideas, basketball, fashion. Him and I have a thing for sneakers, although my sneakers don't really show that today. But so to some degree, we just stayed in touch. And so when I left the job, I said, Thad, I need to send over an NDA to you. There's some proprietary technology that we have here. I want you to take a look at this. He actually signed it, sent it back to me, and then we hit it off. And it was a really brutal process of raising money in general, but also with that. He's a very smart guy. He's really sophisticated. He reads his own documents. He also has a team as well, but he's just a guy where, most people of his sort of stature will get a huge inbound of like deal flow and would never read it. Won't have no context. May not even remember your face. He remembers mine, and we had a good rapport, and his financial team came involved. They were very tough. There were a lot of challenges there where their offer to have them participate wasn't really sort of exciting to me and the team. Then I sort of turned down the deal at one point and said, hey, Thad, listen, we got to figure this out because you could be really helpful. And we circled back around about a year later. So it took about a year to close the deal. But Thad has been with us since day one. He's brought on board a number of companies. Him taking time today before his flight this afternoon heading to New Orleans, it just shows how much he's vested into the company, and it's really humbling for us.
Awesome. So Thad, I mean, as a professional athlete, I think the common person knows that you guys make good money, at least for a certain stretch, which makes you ideal investors in a way, but, I'm sure you have to be wary of scams, bad ideas. You mentioned off stage that you get approached by people all the time, and you obviously can't invest in everything. What was it about Claim It or Ali that appealed to you and led you to really get down with them?
I think it was more of the the idea of being able to breach this market and get into this market. Most basketball players are not really thinking about anything but their basketball careers at this point in time. I'm only 27 years old, and I'm still young, and I'm still probably going to play a long time. But I've always been a person that likes to think towards the future, and I can see my investment in Claim It, or my participation in Claim It, potentially leading to something else in the future also. And I also look at Ali as family now. We're invested into Claim It, 100%, and we both we want the same thing for Claim It, to continue to grow and grow and grow, and potentially be something huge. I think that's one of the biggest things. But as far as me being a basketball player, I'm always thinking about the future, and I'm always thinking about how I can make myself better. I've continued to grow each and every year and continue to try to educate myself. Even after leaving 1 year at Georgia Tech, I went back and I actually finished my degree. I just finished it last summer, so I think that was one of the biggest things for me. Just continue to educate myself. And as far as me having a structure behind me, I have people in my family that's made tons and tons of money through several investments. This is my first tech investment, but I've made other investments in commercial real estate properties and stuff like that. And it's done pretty well for me, but I think the biggest thing for me right now is just finding my niche after basketball. And that was one of the things I set forth to do. And Ali has definitely been helping me do that, just by us putting a lot of time into Claim It. Claim It is going to be huge. I think it's the first to market. Nobody's doing what we're doing as far as giving away free product for watching a 15-second ad. And he found a way to basically get people to buy into it, and I think that was the biggest part. From day one when I seen it, I was just like, man, like this can be huge, like this can be big. But also in our talks, like he said, it took me a year to invest in it because I like to have a strategy when I'm investing. I like to have people behind me when I'm investing. I like to have other people, because like I said, I'm 27 years old, so I don't know everything. And I realized that early on in my career as a basketball player, I don't know everything. So I continue to learn the market, continue to teach myself about the market, continue to go to different people who's been in these tech companies to learn about more and more about, how the tech company can help me as an individual. And, I think it's been best for me, just to kind of, take a step back and, within that year's time to educate myself and to help myself get better in that market and in that field. But like I said, we went through a whole bunch of due diligence, and it was a long process. And like you say, the deal actually was took off the table, and I was fine with that because I see deals each and every day, and you don't always have to jump on the first deal because there's always a deal that's going to come about. And I think that was one of the things also that I realized. I'm always going to see deals because of who I am as a person, who I am as a player, and the type of money that I'm making. So I just basically try to use my brain, use my knowledge, and try to just continue to learn. I think that was the biggest thing for me.
Cool. Thad, is there an infrastructure either with the NBA or the Players Association that encouraged, entrepreneurship, or is this kind of like a personal family thing and you're sort of unique amongst NBA players that you have this interest?
I would say I'm one of few. I wouldn't say everybody's doing what I'm doing. I'm one of few. I know it's a few guys out there that's doing a lot of different things as far as businesses and tech companies. But I'm definitely one of the few guys that's kind of jumping into it. And the NBA, they're doing a great job of basically putting a lot of different programs together for the players to reach their full potential after basketball. They have real estate programs. They have programs where you can go to Beats by Dre, or you can go to Pepsi, you can go to Coca-Cola, you can go to all these different places and you can job shadow. And guys are taking full advantage of these different things. The younger guys are starting to buy into the system, and they're starting to buy into going into these different companies and learning more about the business, because I think guys are now starting to realize that basketball you can only play for so long. You can only make so much money, and when that money stops coming like it is, when you're not making $300,000-400,000 every 2 weeks or every month, you have to have something to fall back on, and that was one of the reasons why, like I said, I went back and got my degree. So when basketball is over, I can potentially go out and be ready for the workforce.
Wow.
That's great. Ali, step one obviously was getting investors, getting Claim It off the ground. Now that it's out there and you've got the truck and you've got Starbucks cards and you've given away a lot of other stuff, how does it work, getting the partners, getting the brands, how has that process been?
Well, we like to think that step one for us, I know you mentioned investments. I think as an engineer myself, step one is the product and leadership. And so I was told through my teachers, who I call my mentors, that scale habits with leadership first. And so that was our step in making sure we have a core team that can build a product, that we currently have. You mentioned a truck. We're slowly moving away from the truck into retail. So a recent interview with CNN last week gave our users and people a glimpse that now you can walk into stores such as Starbucks, Crumbs, Sprint, you name it, T-Mobile. And these companies are incentivizing users by physically driving them with free stuff, right? So that's attractive. The user are able to walk inside these stores, watch these ads that could be really contextual and also tailored to the user. And they're getting something out of it. And so the users is really satisfied. You look at our app reviews, we have over 1,500 five-star app reviews. So I think for us, moving forward, I think, you look at our brand partnerships, a lot of them come inbound, right? So, we have a small team of 10 people, and we have 3 that works on the sales and marketing side. We get deal flows every day from Arby's reached out to us 2 days ago. Their senior vice president wanted to take a meeting. And so we get a lot of inbound of brands reaching out to us. And so our focus is to be able to compel our users by showing them really great prizes such as Arby's and Saks Fifth Avenues, but also really identify hyperlocal companies like the burger joints, the coffee shops, where these local small businesses need foot traffic. And so we like to think that our platform is sort of the intersection of desire and need, the desire of people wanting free stuff. And it's a big market, right? You can imagine. And also the need of brands wanting to get product into locals' hands, and then also to drive some foot traffic into stores.
And are you guys equipped? Could you do a local business in Chicago tomorrow or San Francisco, or will you be growing staff-wise, or is it a pretty simple execution?
Currently right now is a pretty simple execution. As I mentioned, engineering is really at the core, as well as our customer, of every decision that we make. So for us, we have test market. We have soft launch to some degree in Miami, Chicago, and LA. We partner with the Chicago Cubs in Chicago. We partner with Life in Color in Miami as well as LA. So we're continually to make iterations to our project to make it more lean and scalable. So to some degree, we don't need a staff or a Salesforce team the size of a Goldman Sachs trading floor like Groupon. But our motto is really light, that we could basically run an offer in Chicago tomorrow, and our users can see where that store or the vehicle is.
Okay. I'd like to ask you both sort of a similar question for the guests. We'll start with Thad as the investor. Probably people don't maybe have the same amount to play with as you do, but even someone with a smaller bankroll but is curious and wants to see their money put towards something that could grow. What advice do you have for a beginning investor, in this case in tech, but what process should they go through?
With me, I have people looking over people. I think that's the biggest thing. Lawyer, business manager, agent, all the way down. Just to have more and more people and more sets of eyes. Even if you have to pay for it. Sometimes you have to pay a toll for trying to get some value out of something, and I think that's the biggest thing. Continue to have more sets of eyes, more people looking over it, because you might miss something. I try to read everything over and over and over and over, and I'm not a lawyer. I have no legal experience at all, but I do know how to decipher what's on a piece of paper, and with me having lawyers in my family and having different people to be those sets of eyes for me, we continue to do our due diligence on the paperwork and continue to look over it. And like I said, it's a tough, brutal process for companies to deal with, but if they want me as an investor, then they're gonna have to deal with it. I think that's the biggest thing. You know, if you're coming to me, then I'm not just gonna just say, hey, yes, I'm gonna throw my money into this. I'm gonna take my time. I'm gonna read over it. I'm gonna look it over, and it may take 2 weeks, and it may take 6 months. You know, with Ali, it took a year. You know, but at the end of the day, you know, like I said, it's my money, and you know, I have to make great and good investments and sound decisions with my money.
Great. And Ali, you know, engineering background is obviously crucial to your success, but you had to take a leap of faith, I guess, or, you know, you had some bravery, or just, you know, your personal story is pretty inspirational. I mean, what gave you the courage? What do you say to people out there that have an idea and the whole concept of taking it somewhere seems intimidating to them, or like more than they can handle? Like, how did you do it?
Well, for me, I was making more money than Thaddeus Young at one point. I'm just kidding. No, I think one thing I learned is that we lacked so much growing up, right? And so my desire was I wanted more. And my teachers from Columbia to MIT to like my mentors and my family would encourage me to develop my skill and use my skill to my advantage. And so you look at in 2006 or 2007 coming out of school, you know, at least the technology industry wasn't as robust as it is now. So it was difficult for me at that time to get a job as like an engineer for a company making a good salary. So I ended up working at the Department of Education making $40,000 a year. And so my peers, which are kids, my friends who went to MIT and Columbia, these guys are making over 100 grand. So I knew there was something I was missing. And so for me, it was an opportunity hidden in plain sight where I had to then become innovative and creative and think of ways to innovate. And so I started to search for inspiration, and through my struggle of not having much and being homeless during a short period of time, that's what gave me the inspiration. And so growing up the same way of what I went through in my early career just enabled me to say, I wasn't dissuaded, right? I just said to myself, I can do this. And it wasn't that painful. The most challenging part was that, you know, we were expecting a birth for my daughter. But other than that, I knew that I would bounce back and I would be able to innovate and meet guys like him that would buy into not just me, but also to the innovation of what we're doing with Claim It.
Okay. And what, you know, what type of benchmarks are there, or how do you and will you measure success for Claim It in 6 months, a year? And, you know, I mean, honestly, you're not a whole lot older than Thad, so you've got a lot of time in front of you too. And, you know, I guess speak first about, you know, the Claim It future, and then maybe, you know, do you have an end game with Claim It? You don't have to share your ideas,
Sure.
But are you going to go start other things as well?
Well, it's bad to say I'm going to start other things while Dad is on the stage, right? But
Well, I mean, in 5 years, 10 years, who knows?
No, I think in 5 years, I would love to just be, you know, running Claim It. You know, obviously raising my daughter, which would be, at 5 years, would be 12 at that time. So that's our focus. I wish I can share some of our ideas moving forward, but I did mention that retail and commerce is a big focus of ours right now. And so onboarding, you know, these retail partners and commerce partners and really making key iterations to our product to make it more scalable and attractive to venture capitalists to some degree is our focus. You know, but I think for us, is what's really key for us now is to be able to really keep our heads down and not be too excited by the PR and the users. You know, we get a lot of sort of users who download the app every day. So in our case, our benchmarks are typically our chums, right? So chums is a new term now in the venture capital world. And our users are really active and engaged in the app. Those who don't even claim in our app, they launch the app more than 5 times a week just to see where the truck is located. We also discovered more than 30% of our users who have the app outside of New York City is basically locating, show our locations to see if maybe we pop up in San Antonio or Orlando or Chicago, et cetera. So we know their desire is something that's important to us. And so we're doing all we can to take some more money from Dad and other guys so we can continue to build out the product.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for listening. I mean, first and foremost, download the Claim It app. If you want to support a cool young basketball player that is inspirational and thinks beyond the game, root for Thad Young.
And
if you like basketball, check out Slam Online. And thank you all for listening.